Everyone thinks the problem with electric cars is range anxiety. That is the wrong answer. And the fact that you believe it is exactly why the industry wants you to keep believing it. According to Consumer Reports, EVs and plug-in hybrids have about 80% more problems on average than gas-only cars. Not a little more, not marginally worse, 80%, and yet the sales pitch has never changed. Cleaner, cheaper to run, the future. Here is what nobody told you when you signed the paperwork. There is a number buried inside almost every EV transaction in America right now, a number that the dealership does not mention, the manufacturer does not advertise, and the financing office breezes past. That number, in most cases, sits somewhere around $15,000, and it is waiting for you at the end of a road you did not know you were on. We are going to get to exactly what that number is, and exactly how it works. But first, you need to understand what we mean when we say most electric cars sold in America today are junk. Not aesthetically, not in terms of software, not in terms of acceleration or charging speed or any of the things that get reviewed on YouTube. Junk in the specific, financial, engineering sense. Junk the way a tool is junk when it costs more to maintain than it ever saves you. Junk the way a machine is junk when its failure mode is designed to make you spend more than you ever intended. That is the definition we are working with, and under that definition, the data is uncomfortable. Start with what junk actually means in structural terms. A product qualifies as junk not because it breaks spectacularly on day one. It qualifies because over its total lifespan, across every line of real cost, it extracts more from you than it delivers. That test has 5 components when you apply it to an electric vehicle in the American market in 2026. The first is how fast it loses value. The second is what it costs to insure. The third is how reliable it is compared to what it replaced. The fourth is what it costs to own in total over time. The fifth is what happens to your equity when you try to sell it. Apply those 5 filters to the fleet of EVs currently on American roads. What you find is not what the marketing department prepared you for. On depreciation alone, the situation is severe. Beginning in 2023 and continuing through 2024, Tesla repeatedly reduced prices across its lineup, slashing tens of thousands of dollars off vehicles like the Model Y and Model S, and when a brand new EV suddenly cost only a few $1,000s more than a lightly used one, used pricing had nowhere to go but down. Data from Cox Automotive and Kelley Blue Book have consistently shown used EVs depreciating faster than the overall used car market, especially as inventory levels normalized following the pandemic-era supply crunch. The result for owners who bought 2 or 3 years ago is that they are holding a depreciating asset in a market where the manufacturer is actively undercutting the resale value of their own vehicle. Recent market analyses show many EVs losing close to 60% of their value over a typical 5-year span. If you financed a $45,000 EV and you still owe $30,000 on the loan, you may already be underwater. That is not a metaphor. That is negative equity. The car is worth less than what you owe, and the market is not done correcting. New EV inventory has ballooned to 130 days supply, which is 46% higher than the 89 days supply for combustion vehicles. That oversupply is not a temporary blip. It is a structural signal. When a category of product sits on lots at that ratio compared to its competition, the market is telling you something about demand. Used EVs now average $34,821, within just $1,300 of the $33,487 average for used gas vehicles, and that near parity is unprecedented, because the used EV to ICE price gap was over $10,000 as recently as early 2023. In 2 years, EVs gave back $10,000 of relative value in the used market. That is not depreciation. That is a collapse. And if you own one bought at 2022 or 2023 prices, that collapse came directly out of your pocket. Now the insurance number. The industry talks constantly about lower fuel costs and reduced maintenance. What it does not talk about is the premium you pay to insure the vehicle in the first place. The national average cost of insuring an EV is $4,058 per year, which is 49% higher than for a gas-powered car at $2,732, according to Insurify data. That is not a rounding error. That is over $1,300 extra per year, every year, from the moment you drive off the lot. One of the leading factors driving that price differential is repair cost, because EVs can be more expensive to repair, especially in denser markets, and they need specialized technicians. When Mitchell subjected a gasoline and EV version of the same truck to a front-end crash test, the engine in the traditional model actually absorbed quite a bit of the impact, and because the electric version does not have that additional structure, it was designed with additional reinforcement that cost around 30% more to fix. The insurer knows this. They have the repair data. They have priced accordingly. You are paying for that engineering reality every single month. Then there is reliability. This is where the conversation usually gets uncomfortable, because the EV industry has spent years building a narrative around simplicity. Fewer moving parts, no transmission, no combustion cycle to maintain. All of that is true in theory. In practice, the data says something different. EVs and plug-in hybrids have about 80% more problems on average than gas-only cars. That figure comes from Consumer Reports' survey of roughly 380,000 vehicles. It is not an estimate. It is owner-reported problem data from actual vehicles on actual American roads. EVs from Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis are the least reliable models from each brand, and according to survey data, many complaints are related to a faulty integrated charging control unit, a component of the electric powertrain that has been recalled on vehicles from all three brands due to failures that can cause a loss of power while driving. Think about what that means in practice. A component failure that can cause a loss of power while driving, on a vehicle you were told was simpler than what it replaced. General Motors debuted its all-new Ultium battery and electric motor architecture on new vehicles for the 2024 model year, and its reliability issues persist, with almost every model that uses the shared technology, including the Chevrolet Blazer and Cadillac Lyriq, earning a reliability score of below average or well below average. One platform, multiple brands. One set of flaws propagated across an entire product lineup. That is not bad luck. That is the structural risk of scaling unproven technology faster than the engineering can support. This brings us to the number, the $15,000 number. This is the one the industry does not put in the brochure. This is the one that turns a used EV from a bargain into a financial trap. And this is the number that, once you understand it, reframes every EV transaction you will ever look at from this point forward. The total cost of a Tesla battery replacement can cost $15,000 to $22,000 if it occurs outside of the manufacturer warranty window. For a Model 3 long range specifically, most owners report total bills in the $12,000 to $16,000 range. For a Model Y, $14,000 to $17,000 is the realistic window. For a Model S or Model X, expect a total of $15,000 to $25,000 depending on the specific revision of the battery hardware. These are not worst-case numbers pulled from horror stories on Reddit. These are market rates, parts plus labor, what a shop charges when the warranty is gone. Here is the mechanism that makes this a trap rather than just an expensive repair. Tesla provides a warranty of 8 years and 100,000 miles, or 120,000 miles, for long-range trims, and if your battery degrades more than 70% in that time, Tesla will replace it. That warranty sounds comprehensive. And for the original owner who bought new and kept the car for 7 years and sold it, it largely is. The person the warranty was not designed to protect is you, the person who bought that 7-year-old car used at what looked like a deal. The person who drove it for 2 more years before the warranty clock ran out. The person who now has a vehicle that the market values at maybe $12,000 and a battery quote that just came in at $15,000. That is the trap. Not that the battery fails catastrophically on every car, not that every EV owner ends up with this bill. The trap is the timing and the transfer of risk. When you buy a used EV in year 7 or 8, you are not just buying a car, you are absorbing the terminal phase of an 8-year warranty cycle. The manufacturer's obligation to you ends exactly when the probability of an expensive failure begins to rise. The cost gets transferred to the used car market. The person who absorbs it is whoever holds the car when the warranty expires. In most cases, that is not the original owner. Among the fleet currently on American roads, an estimated 155,000 to 185,000 Teslas alone have crossed the 8-year mark, a crucial milestone, because Tesla's battery warranty coverage lasts for 8 years. That number grows every year. Every one of those vehicles is now in a zone where the manufacturer's obligation has ended and the owner's exposure begins. Once the warranty period ends, owners must navigate Tesla battery replacement options and decisions on their own. The industry never made that sentence part of the sales pitch. Now step back and look at the full cost picture. The sales pitch for EVs has always been the same. You pay more upfront, but you save on fuel and maintenance, so over time you come out ahead. That math was always dependent on several assumptions holding simultaneously. The fuel savings assume you drive enough miles to matter. The maintenance savings assume the car does not develop platform-wide electrical problems. The resale value assumption assumes the market does not correct by $10,000 in 2 years. The AAA Your Driving Costs study showed that EVs have the second highest total ownership costs of any vehicle type, driven by depreciation, purchase prices, and finance charges. Second highest, out of every category of vehicle, despite the lowest fuel costs of any powertrain. The fuel savings are real. They are just not large enough to compensate for everything else working against you simultaneously. The 5 conditions apply to the same vehicle at the same time. It loses value faster than its gas equivalent. It costs more to insure. It shows 80% more problems on reliability surveys. Its total cost of ownership exceeds the pitch. And the moment you try to sell it, the market has already priced in everything you did not know when you bought it. Those conditions do not apply to every EV on every day. They apply in combination to most of the EVs currently on American roads, and that combination is what the word junk is doing in the title. Here is what the market data shows about where those conditions converge. According to analyses by Cox Automotive, Tesla accounted for 45% of all new EV sales in 2026, down from a 75% market share at the start of 2022. The brand that built the EV market has been losing ground to a growing field, and that field, with some exceptions, has not yet closed the reliability gap. EV sales fell by 27% year-over-year in Q1 of 2026, with 216,399 units sold, lower by 7.8% compared to the previous quarter. The market is voting with its wallet. The federal EV tax credit expired on the 30th of September 2025, and the One Big Beautiful Bill Act sunsetted the purchase credit, with the impact being immediate and severe. Remove the subsidy. See what happens to demand. The answer arrived in the sales data within weeks. So what do you do if you already own one? This is the practical question, and it has a practical answer. The worst position is to hold a vehicle past the warranty expiration in a degrading market without a plan. If you are inside the warranty window, your leverage is maximum now and decreasing daily. Most Model Y high-voltage batteries are covered for up to 8 years, or 100,000 to 120,000 miles, whichever comes first. Know exactly where you are on that clock. If you are at year 6 and you are planning to sell at year 9, you are planning to hold through the warranty expiration and transfer the risk to yourself. Selling before the warranty expires means the coverage transfers with the car and the buyer is paying for the remaining protection. Selling after means you are selling into a market that already knows what a battery replacement costs, and that knowledge will be reflected in every offer you receive. The second practical answer is knowing which EVs sit outside the problem zone. The Model Y is currently the most reliable new EV you can purchase according to Consumer Reports data. BMW's i4, i5, and iX all have average reliability according to Consumer Reports' 2026 survey. These are vehicles where the engineering has matured enough that the reliability gap is narrowing. If you are buying new, these are the models where the 5 conditions do not stack as heavily against you. The trap is not electric cars as a category. The trap is buying into a category where the reliability, depreciation, insurance, and warranty dynamics combine to make the total ownership story worse than the sales story. Most of the market is still in that trap. A portion of it has started to find its way out. The deeper issue is that the EV industry has spent a decade building a financial narrative that required subsidies, optimistic depreciation curves, and no major battery replacement events to hold together. All 3 of those props are now weakening simultaneously. The tax credits are gone. The depreciation curves have corrected sharply, and the first wave of post-warranty vehicles is entering the market in meaningful numbers. The math that justified the purchase in 2021 does not automatically justify the hold in 2026. These are different financial environments, and they require different decisions. There is a version of electric vehicle ownership that makes sense. It involves buying a vehicle with an extended warranty, understanding the total cost of ownership before signing, knowing exactly where you are on the battery warranty clock at all times, and not confusing low monthly fuel costs with low total ownership cost. Those are different numbers. The industry trained you to look at one of them. The other one is where the $15,000 lives. The machine was not built to save you money over 30 years. It was built to sell at a premium, depreciate fast, cost more to insure, generate reliability problems at a higher rate than its competition, and time a massive replacement cost to arrive exactly when the manufacturer's obligation ends. That is not a flaw in the design. That is the design, and the fact that most buyers never run the full numbers is not an accident either. If this channel makes you think twice before signing the next contract without reading every line of the warranty section, subscribe. That is the only subscription worth having.